This episode, the Secret Wealth Cheat Code from the Occulted Ledger series, is brought to you by Viscard Studio.
Okay, so I have to be honest with you. When I first saw the topic for this deep dive, and I looked at the stack of documents involved, I was fully expecting we were going to be doing like a crash course in offshore banking.
Right, the usual stuff.
Or maybe, I don't know, a breakdown of inheritance tax loopholes, the standard how the rich stay rich playbook.
That is usually where the conversation starts when people talk about dynastic wealth. But the documents we are looking at today
Are different.
well, let's just say they are not from the finance section of the bookstore. They are from that section in the back that, collects dust until someone very specific comes looking for them.
That is an understatement. I mean, we are looking at a source stack that includes a book called The Illuminati Secret Laws of Money by Dr. George Mentz,
Right.
leaked investigations into the Skull and Bones Society at Yale, which, by the way, includes their internal rituals, and even these incredibly strange, infamous interviews with a self-proclaimed member of the ruling bloodlines known as the Hidden Hand.
It is a wild mix.
It's a wild, wild mix.
It's eclectic. But the mission for this deep dive is to show that there is a consistent underlying thread connecting all of them. If you read them side by side, which we've done,
I start to see a pattern.
you realize that for these groups, wealth generation isn't viewed as an economic process. It's viewed as a technology.
A hidden technology. And just to be clear, we aren't talking about high-speed trading algorithms or AI. We're talking about what the texts call a metaphysical science.
Exactly. The premise we are exploring today is provocative.
Yeah.
That there are specific mental and spiritual laws, almost like a cheat code for reality,
The cheat code. Yeah.
that the so-called masters of the world use to shape their environment while the masses are kept in the dark, effectively asleep at the wheel.
So our goal today is to basically reverse engineer this cheat code.
Yeah.
We're going to try to strip away all the spooky language and see what the mechanics are.
I think we've got three main areas to cover.
Right. The specific way they control thought, this very weird magnetic concept of gratitude, and then the biology of it, the symbolism of the internal temple.
And I think it is important to flag right up front.
Yeah.
We aren't asking you to believe in the Illuminati or that secret societies run the world.
No, not a...
The goal here is to understand what they believe, because according to these texts, they have been using this operating system to run things for centuries. Whether you believe in it or not,
Yeah.
they certainly do.
Right. Whether it's magic or just extreme psychology, the results seem to speak for themselves. So let's start with the software. The I am consciousness.
This comes heavily from the Mentz text.
Yeah. And on the surface, it sounds like standard affirmation stuff you'd hear from a life coach, but the way he frames it is much more aggressive.
It's much more mechanical. Mentz refers to the law of thoughts. The core argument is that human beings, we originate thought.
Okay.
Those thoughts turn into images or plans. And then, and this is the non-negotiable part, according to the text, those images must manifest in reality.
He uses this analogy that I actually found really helpful to visualize this. He says sending your thoughts out there is like sending a letter of request to the supreme architect.
Right. But it is not a wish. It is not a suggestion box.
No.
It is a purchase order.
That's the distinction. He says if you send the order correctly, it must be granted. It's a mechanical process. But he also says most people are sending the wrong order.
We're filling out the form incorrectly.
Yes.
Precisely. This is where language becomes the coding for reality. If you wake up and say, I need more money, or I want to be rich, what are you actually signaling to the universe?
Well, logically, I'm saying I want cash, but metaphysically.
Metaphysically, you are signaling that you do not have it. You are affirming the lack. You are stating, I am in a state of want.
So I'm confirming the state of needing.
Exactly. The text argues that the universe is a neutral validator of your truth. If your truth is, I need, the universe effectively says, understood, you need. Here are more situations that cause you to need.
It's like a genie that takes you way too literally. You ask for a need, and it gives you the feeling of need.
In a way, yes. The elite technique, according to these documents, is the shift to I am.
I am wealthy. I am powerful.
It is speaking the goal as a present, undeniable fact. It is claiming the identity before the evidence shows up.
There was a line in the text that really stuck with me. Truth is your faithful, non-doubting interpretation of your thoughts. That hit me hard. It implies that doubt isn't just an emotion.
No.
It's a counterorder. You're calling the shipping department and canceling your own shipment.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And this is where we have to bring in the hidden hand material, because it takes this concept from self-help to something much darker and more systemic.
Right.
The hidden hand source, who claims to be part of this ruling group soul that manages the planet, says this isn't just about getting rich, it's about the nature of reality itself.
This is the interview where they claim that the cover-up of the centuries isn't aliens or JFK. It's hiding the fact that human consciousness is unlimited.
Yes. They argue that awareness creates reality, period. So if the elite want to maintain power,
They have to manage the awareness of the masses.
they claim they actively work to keep the population focused on fear, division, scarcity, terror.
Which makes total sense if you buy the I am logic. If I'm focused on fear, I'm using my purchase order to request more things to be afraid of.
Exactly. You are using your own divine creative power to build your own prison. The hidden hand essentially mocks the masses for this. They view people as sleeping gods, unknowingly using their power to sustain a nightmare.
While the elite use that same power consciously to build empires.
It's a resource extraction model, but the resource isn't oil or gold.
It's our attention. It's our focus.
That is a very astute way to put it. They are harvesting the created energy of the masses to maintain a reality that serves the few.
Okay, so step 1 is fixing the order form, changing I need to I am. But step 2 seems to be about the transmission signal. You have to send the order. And this brings us to gratitude. Now, usually when I hear gratitude, I think of being polite, writing a thank you note. But the Secret Laws of Money describes it like, I don't know, electrical engineering.
It does. Mentz describes gratitude not as a social nicety, but as a vibration or a magnetic force. The text is very specific. Gratitude brings the mind into closer harmony with the creative energies of the universe.
There was this phrase that I thought was so visual, cutting the wires.
Yes. The source states that when you allow yourself to dwell on dissatisfaction, poverty, or anger, you are literally cutting the wires that connect you to the source of supply.
You disconnect the circuit.
Gratitude is the copper wire that keeps the energy flowing.
But here is the part I struggled with. The text talks about pre-gratitude, being grateful before you get the thing. To me, that feels like delusion. How can I be grateful for $1 million I don't have?
It is counterintuitive to the logical mind, but essential to the metaphysical one. Think about it this way. The grateful mind expects good things.
Okay.
If you are truly grateful for something, it implies you already possess it in some way, right?
So by feeling the gratitude first.
You are hacking the signal.
Yeah.
You are vibrating at the frequency of having, not wanting. It creates a self-fulfilling cycle. The text calls it a path to perpetual increase.
So if you are grateful for what you have and grateful for what is coming as if it is already here, you become a magnet.
That's the idea. And it's almost like the hidden hand perspective again, even though they are described as these, Luciferian or service to self groups.
Which sounds incredibly evil.
It does. But they seem to follow this rule religiously. They emphasize that even they are bound by the law of one, the idea that everything is connected.
So they can't create in a vacuum.
They know they can't. Even if their gratitude is twisted, grateful for their dominance or their power, it still aligns them with the flow of energy.
So they are walking around with this absolute certainty, this vibrational gratitude for their position, and the universe just keeps delivering it.
Correct. They never doubt their right to rule. That certainty is the magnet. Meanwhile, the average person fluctuates between hope and fear, constantly connecting and disconnecting the wire.
One day positive, the next day doom scrolling.
The elite just leave the switch on.
That is a terrifying thought, that they're just running the software of success 24/7. But let's shift gears to the hardware, because the source documents, especially Skull and Bones and the Masonic texts, spend a lot of time talking about the temple.
The Temple of Solomon. It is the central symbol of Freemasonry and many esoteric traditions.
But, and this is the big reveal in the texts, they aren't talking about a building in Jerusalem.
No. And this is where people often get lost in the jargon or the History Channel documentaries. In the esoteric tradition, the temple is a coded symbol for the human body and mind.
The breakdown in the Skull and Bones source was just wild. It started talking about vertebrae in the upper room. Can we decode that for the listener?
Sure. The text described the human spine with its 33 vertebrae as the path or the stairway.
The path up.
In the upper room, a term you see everywhere from the Bible to these secret society texts, represents the human head, the cranial cavity.
Okay, so the 33rd degree of masonry Is that related to the 33 vertebrae?
That is the implication in these specific interpretations, yes.
Yeah.
Reaching the 33rd degree isn't just about rank. It is symbolic of raising one's awareness up the spine to the upper room, where illumination occurs.
And the skull and bones logo? The skull and crossbones.
It is not just a pirate flag. The source claims the crossbones represent the threshold. One bone is knowledge, the other is understanding. You have to cross that threshold to enter the temple of wisdom.
Which is the skull, the mind.
The mind, it's incredibly biological. They're basically saying your body is the antenna for this I am signal we talked about earlier.
And it has to be tuned correctly.
Entirely. The text mentioned that you have to rebuild the temple. This aligns with the concept of knocking to the ground the internal temple.
Which means destroying your ego, your limiting beliefs.
Your ego, your fear, your conditioning. You have to demolish the old ruined structure to build the new one where the divine can reside. You cannot build a palace on a foundation of trash.
That sounds a lot like the alchemical process mentioned in the Gardner text, turning lead into gold.
Exactly. I always thought that was chemistry, like guys in robes trying to get rich.
Most esoteric scholars argue it was never about literal chemistry. The lead is the heavy, dense state of human existence. Laziness, fear, base desires. The gold is spiritual mastery and the ability to command material wealth.
It is a transmutation of the self.
Speaking of building, there was one detail in the Gardner text that I found totally bizarre, the shamir.
Yes.
The text said Solomon's temple was built without iron tools, using the shamir worm to cut the stones. Are we talking about a radioactive slug? What is that?
It's one of the deepest cuts in the stack. No, it is not a literal slug. Gardner explains that in ancient etymology, worm and serpents are often interchangeable. The shamir represents the kundalini energy
The serpentine energy.
that lies at the base of the spine.
Okay, so building without iron tools means building without force.
Exactly. Iron represents brute force, war, physical effort striking the stone. The shamir represents using focused internal energy to cut through reality. The elite obsession with serpent symbolism is about mastering this focus.
And raising this energy up the 33 vertebrae to the upper room.
To activate the higher centers of the brain. So when they call themselves builders, they're not talking about masonry. They are talking about building themselves into a higher state of being.
And conversely, they believe the average person has let their temple fall into ruin, filled with rubbish.
Negative thoughts, media distractions, junk food, petty arguments. A ruined temple cannot transmit a clear signal to the supreme architect.
It creates a pretty stark image. The elite are over there doing mental architecture, and the rest of us are squatting in a condemned building filled with garbage.
That is exactly how the sources frame it. They view it as a waste of potential.
Okay, so we have the thought, the purchase order, we have the connection gratitude, and we have the vehicle, the temple. But the Mentz text emphasizes you can't just sit on the couch and vibrate.
No, you have to actually do something. This is the law of boldness. Mentz writes that thoughts and gratitude are the blueprint, but action is the spark.
But it's not just work hard. The text gets very specific about how you visualize before you act. It mentioned sensory visualization.
Right. How is that different from just daydreaming about being on a yacht?
The distinction is intensity and sensory engagement. Most people visualize by just thinking, I'd like a nice car, and they see a fuzzy picture.
The technique described here requires using all 5 senses in the mind. You don't just see the goal, you have to smell the leather seats. You have to feel the coldness of the steering wheel. Hear the engine purr.
Why does the sensory part matter so much? Why do I need to smell the leather in my mind?
Because, according to these texts, this crystallizes the mental image. It tricks the nervous system, the temple, into believing the experience is real now. This generates the emotional energy, the magnetism that attracts the opportunity.
It moves the thought from fantasy to memory of the future.
That's a great way to put it. And Mentz explicitly links this to sexual energy, referencing Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, that always makes people giggle, but he's serious.
He is serious. It's about the transmutation of sexual energy. The idea is that this is the most potent creative force a human has.
It creates life.
Instead of dissipating it, the elite practice channeling that intense drive and desire into their goals. It becomes the fuel for their boldness. It gives them a charisma and a drive that other people just don't have.
This connects back to the hidden hand interview and the concept of the game. This was the part that I found the most twisting. They admit to creating wars, financial crashes, social upheaval, but they claim they do it to help us.
It is a twisted logic, but yes. They claim the world is a game of polarity. They, the rolling bloodlines, provide the negative polarity.
The tools of destruction.
Exactly.
Right.
But they claim they do this to force us to choose. They say, we provide the tools. You have the free will to choose how to use them. They argue that if we succumb to fear and act like victims, we're failing the test.
We're choosing to be slaves.
So in their worldview, by making things terrible, they're challenging us to crystallize our own reality despite the chaos.
That is their justification. They believe that by creating resistance, they force those with potential to wake up and take control of their own minds. The game is about taking responsibility.
If you blame the government, the economy, or the Illuminati for your problems, you are abdicating your power. You are saying you control me. You are not a master.
It's like a boot camp from hell. We're going to burn your house down to see if you have the will to build a better one.
And to see if you know how to build. Do you have the blueprint? Do you know the laws? Or will you just sit in the ashes and cry? The sources suggest that the hidden hand respects those who play the game back.
They despise the victim, but they respect the opponent.
It really reframes the whole rich versus poor dynamic. It's not just about money. It's about players versus NPCs, non-player characters.
That is a very modern way to put it, but it fits the ancient texts perfectly. The sleeping masses versus the awakened initiates.
So let's try to synthesize this metaphysical algorithm we've uncovered. If we look at the stack as a whole, what is the formula?
It seems to come down to 4 pillars. First, the I am consciousness.
Right. You must rewrite your internal code from I need to I am. You cannot doubt the order.
Second is vibrational gratitude. You have to wire yourself into the universe's supply by being grateful before the result shows up. If you're hateful or fearful, you've cut the wire.
Third is the internal temple discipline. You have to treat your body and mind as the instrument of this creation. Clear out the rubbish, raise that energy up to the upper room of the mind.
And finally, bold action and crystallization. You have to use sensory visualization to make it real in your head. Smell it, touch it, and then use that transmuted energy to take bold, decisive steps in the real world.
You can't just dream, you have to play the game. And you have to play it understanding that the chaos around you, it's just the negative polarity, the resistance you were meant to overcome.
It's heavy stuff. It changes the way you look at the news and definitely the way you look at your own thoughts.
It leaves us with a very uncomfortable tension, which is exactly where these sources want us. We are presented with a hidden technology allegedly used by a group of people who view the rest of us as cattle.
Right. They call us sleeping. They call us slaves. It's insulting.
It is. But the sources also suggest that the only difference between the master and the slave is knowledge. The technology itself, the laws of the mind, is neutral.
It's like gravity.
It works for the saint and the sinner, the tyrant and the teacher.
So the question isn't whether these secret societies exist or if they're evil. The question is knowing that this technology exists.
Are you using your mind to build your own temple? Or are you unknowingly living in someone else's?
That is something I'm going to be thinking about for a long time. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
See you next time.